Everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the live stream. Today, I'm going to be taking questions, doing some Q&A, but I'm also going to be answering questions that I've been reading on different groups from Reddit, like production and mixing groups that I thought were kind of interesting. And I thought, well, we'll just answer those questions today. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Oh, Footfinger, yes, the new board's been doing great. And actually later today, during the stream, I'm going to be releasing a YouTube video that documents the whole crazy process of getting the thing in here. It's kind of a long video, but it'll be coming out right at the end of the stream, and we'll be putting a link up for that. We've got Kit here helping out. Kit, say hi.
Hello.
You got to talk into the mic.
Forgot about
into the microphone.
Into
there.
the mic, yes.
And Harper.
What's up, everyone?
Yeah. Oh, look at the hair. Look at the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. He pulled up. I was like, who is that guy? Anyway, so we're going to be doing some questions. Until anybody's got any questions live, I'm going to go ahead and go over some of these Reddit questions. Let's start with that first one, Harper.
Alrighty.
All right. So the question was, how do I get wide mixes and still have punch and solid phase in the low end? And my answer to that is kind of a combination of things. It's a combination of things you shouldn't do and things that you should do. And I would say one of the things you got to avoid at all costs, if you can, is using stereo wideners. Definitely not on your master fader. Do not do that. Maybe on a keyboard part or something like that. I think the issue is like your bass parts, your kick drum, your snare drum, keep those mono. Keep them in the middle. And you can put the things on the side. Usually you want to hard pan like overheads or do really wide panning on your guitars or your keyboards. Any kind of keyboards you got, pan them wide. And like I said, some of those parts you can use a stereo widener on. But it's a pretty simple thing. I think people overthink it and they put a bunch of plugins on stuff and it kind of actually ruins it, you know? I see people getting into all this like mid-side thing and all that, and I get pretty wide mixes and I'm not actually doing any of that. It's mostly a pretty simple stuff. Very hard panning and then keeping the rhythmical elements right in the middle. All the low end, mostly low end, should just be mono straight up the middle.
What's your opinion on clippers on mix buses and possibly also on the master chain?
Yeah, so clippers. I have one and I use it sometimes, not on everything I do because I'm kind of mastering some of the stuff that I do, but I'm not really a mastering engineer, so I don't really do a lot of that stuff. But if I'm doing like EDM music or something like that, I'll throw a clipper on it. I don't think it's necessarily bad. You know, I think it can sound really good. I think that in the fight to get your music louder, people are kind of overdoing it sometimes, and I just think it sounds terrible. It just starts distorting everything. When I use it, I'm just kind of barely touching it. But then again, it does depend on the music, because some of that EDM kind of sounds a little obnoxious, and I think it's supposed to. So, you know, go for it with that. But I would say wait to put the clipper on there. You know, don't, you know, maybe don't throw it on early in the mix. As far as using it in the mastering process, if you're a professional mastering engineer and you know what you're doing, like, go for it, man. Like, the guys I use do it all the time, and I think they've got a really nice touch with it. Let's see, what other questions? Are there any other questions? Oh, and as usual, I'm waiting for YouTube to come online. It always seems to be...
Oh, we're online on YouTube.
Oh, I know we are, but it takes a long time for people to know that I'm online. Usually people come in after about 20 minutes or so. There's some sort of like delay in letting people know about that. Okay, so I had another question here on Reddit. It was, how do I get a low vocal to stand out in a dense and heavy mix? And I think when they're saying low vocal, I don't think they mean quiet. I think they're talking about literally a low vocal. It's like somebody singing down here. And that's actually a really tough one because it's just harder to get to stand out in the mix, but it's also going to be down there where guitars and keyboards and drums and stuff like that are. And hey, Simon, what's up? And where I learned how to deal with low vocals was mixing Yin Yang Twins records, because Yin Yang Twins, they rap really low. Like, he's down here, they're all down here. And it was like really a struggle for me. So I finally figured out to boost the frequencies that I'm actually normally cutting or shying away from on a normal vocal, which was like 1K, or with the Yin Yang Twins, it was always like 2.3K, like those kind of frequencies, like, I'm not going to boost that. That's actually where all the action is at. So with low vocals, I'll actually boost a lot of mid-range. And here's another interesting thing. To make low vocals stand out, I'll actually cut low end. I'm usually doing a high-pass filter on vocals anyway, like around 100 hertz. But there's this weird thing with low vocals that it's not quite like the telephone sound, but kind of cutting some extra low end because they're low. There's going to be a little extra low end in there, and it just muddies it up. So I'll kind of make it sound super mid-rangey, and then a little bit of distortion or saturation in there will go a long way to make low vocals pop out. And then insane, hyped compression helps a lot too. Any questions? Okay, so here on Instagram, and by the way, we're live streaming on Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at the same time. I'm wondering if you have any tips for someone who has limited equipment to improve the quality of sound. Well, I guess what I'm kind of wondering is, like, if are you miking things, when I first, I've been recording for a long time, but when I started really getting into rock and roll and stuff like that, I didn't really have that much equipment. I had just a few mics and stuff like that. And what I relied on was kind of focusing on the actual element, like what is the guitar sound, instead of worrying about, I got these fancy mic pre's. I spent a lot of time with the amps, getting the amp to sound right, and whatever microphones I had, and like stupid amounts of time of like, I didn't have any great, I had 57s, of course, but I didn't have any ribbon mics or anything like that. So I would just spend stupid amounts of time working on the tone, working on the source, I think, is the main thing. But as much as I love equipment and all that, I don't really think that is the key that's going to really make things, people stand up and pay attention. Like, I wish I could play some of these examples. Actually, I probably could. But there's this one band, and actually I'm going to go ahead and pull something up here while I'm talking. But I'm going to talk about this band. I recorded them in like 2000, 2001. I didn't really have much rock and roll stuff. I didn't have any good amps. I had like a crate amplifier and some crappy guitars. But I wanted to do this project, and I knew that we were like going to be kind of fighting against, I'm going to have to do a search for this, fighting against, and competing with some really big artists out there doing this kind of music. So what I relied on was just doing something really cool. And there's a song here. Okay, I'm going to play this. And so I'm just going to play this for you. This was something I did, and it's going to be in mono over Instagram. But I did this with hardly any gear. Just one crappy amplifier, but we spent a lot. And the funny thing is, it doesn't actually necessarily sound great, but it's got a vibe. We did cool things. So I'll play a little bit of this song here.
Cigarettes and kerosene, sickened by the sights I've seen. Break away from reality, pretend we're living in another day.
Yeah, I didn't even have any good overhead mics. We just had the one amp, a cheap bass. But we spent a long time on the songs and the vibe and just doing cool things.
Tell mama how you felt last night. You know what's wrong and right.
And the thing, like, when I listen to these guitars now, it's like, they're so buzzy in the top end because I just couldn't get any meat out of them. And I thought, a lot of there's a lot of bands that go for the buzzy guitar, so I found records with buzzy guitars and just tried to make them sound like that. So the point being, you know, if you can't do something, if you don't have great gear, focus on the source and focus on the songwriting. That's the best thing I can say. Let's see if there's any other questions here.
Not right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see what other questions do we have here. Let's go to the next one. This is another one from Reddit, and the question is, how do I get a clear mix on a song with a lot of elements and parts? And that's actually a great question. And it's something that I have to struggle with sometimes when I get mix work from clients, like people send things in. I think one of the things that ends up being a problem sometimes is that people will have like 3 keyboard parts and they're all kind of playing in the same range, like in the middle of the keyboard, and they're all kind of the similar tone, as opposed to having one in a high octave and one in a low octave. So one of the main things you should do is not really about the mixing, but how you're arranging something and making sure that those are all kind of spread out. Like, don't, clutter up the mix with having too many elements and too many parts in the same area. However, if you got something like that from a client, then a lot of times this is going to come down to severe EQ and maybe some panning and stuff like that. And what I'll do is on different parts, I'll like boost a frequency and just kind of sweep it around till I find something really unique. Oh, I really like that sound there. And I'll keep it boosted up at a fairly narrow bandwidth, and I'll boost it up, I don't know, like 7, 8, 9 dB. And then I'll go to all the other sounds that it's fighting with, and I'll kind of notch out frequencies to kind of like give them some character, but I don't let them use the same frequencies. That's one of the main things you can do. The other thing is use as little reverb as possible. Reverb, I love reverb, but reverb could really muddy up a mix. And as a matter of fact, I've got a YouTube video where I talk about this, where I didn't use reverb on vocals for 10 years. I went 10 years, 0 reverb on any vocals I did, whether it was rap or rock or whatever. And what I would do is I would have a series of stereo delays. I'd have like a short stereo delay, like maybe 100 milliseconds. So the left would be 100 milliseconds, the right would be 110 milliseconds, and they'd just barely be in there. And then I'd have another delay that was like maybe 150 or 175. And so the right would be 175, the left would be 185. I usually separate them by 10 milliseconds. So whatever the previous frequency echo was, or whatever the previous delay was, if the longer delay was on the right, on the next delay going up, the longer delay, out of those two, the left and right, the left would be slightly longer. So you're not always having the longer delay on the same side. And then I might add a third one in that's like maybe 250 milliseconds, right? And make that offset, like one side, the left would be 250, right would be 260. And I'm only using about maybe, my feedback's only like at 3. You're getting maybe 2 delays. It's not going, they're really short, and you just barely blend them in. And in the mix, it just sounds like you got some reverb on it. But it ends up clearing it up because reverb has that little tail in there, and it's like filling in. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's a lot of, it's literally just, with reverb, when it goes out, it's literally like this wall of sound till it washes away. With delays, it's a bunch of short sounds. It's a bunch of repeats in there. And that was one of the main tricks I did to clear up mixes. And also use shorter reverbs. Like if you got a reverb on your snare drum, you'd be surprised how short you can get that reverb and get away with it. It doesn't need to be as long. I pretty much shorten every reverb I ever use on a mix. I just off the preset, I'm always shortening it. And then rolling off some low end as well. Okay. Oh, yeah. POD, yes, Simon, you're right. That's kind of what we were into at the time, and that's what we were listening to, using really buzzy guitars. Why can't I think the name of this band right now? Billy Corgan. Who is Billy? Billy Corgan was in the big 90s band. Why can't I remember the name of this band? The bald guy, Billy Corgan. Oh my God, somebody answered this for me. But we were copying some of those guitar parts because they have these kind of like buzzy buzzy guitars, and I can't believe I forgot the name of this band. It's not like I was a huge fan of them or anything like that, but
Is this Smashing Pumpkins?
Smashing
Pumpkins, yeah.
Pumpkins, that's it. I knew that something was getting broken, but yeah, when we, because I like really thick electric guitars, and I just couldn't get it with that crate amp. So, well, we got buzz. Let's go with the buzz. Let's see the best buzzy guitar sound we can get. Let's see. Well, I'm not getting any questions here. Usually people got all sorts of, usually I'm doing something else and people got all these questions. Well, today I'm just going to do Q&A. So I need somebody to ask me a question here. Come on, man. I'm ready. I don't even care if I don't know the answer or if it's difficult. Somebody asked me a question about mixing or production or motorcycles. All right, we'll just go to another question here. Okay. Ear fatigue. How do I avoid ear fatigue? And that's actually that's a really important question because it's really easy to get a really bad mix because you've been wearing your ears out. First thing is, do not mix too loudly. When I'm mixing, thanks, Simon. When I'm mixing my volume, there's not really a way that I could show you live now, but if you were sitting in the room with me and my standard mix volume, I could literally talk like this and you'd be able to hear me. I could talk over the volume on my mixing. I mix most of the time at a very low volume. I think it saves my ears, but it's also a way to get a mix. If I can make a mix sound really exciting at a low volume, it's going to sound amazing at a high volume. But the other thing you can do is take lots of breaks, and that's what I do. Because ear fatigue is not really just that your ears are tired. It's kind of like your brain, your ears kind of, I think your ears kind of get tuned. If you're sitting here listening to something for a long time, it's almost like your ears kind of respond and they kind of, I don't know what the word be. It's almost like they're changing frequencies or something. They become tuned to this sound. So you might start imagining you have more high end than you need or less high end than you need because you've only been listening to this one source. So one of the best things you can do is stop and listen to some other music and often listen to something really different than what you're working on. The other thing is walk out of the room. I like to walk outside. I can just walk out the back door here and just be outside. And going outside, I think, is one of the best things you can do, even if it's for 1 minute. 1 minute. You walk outside for 1 minute and it kind of it resets your ears. Suddenly it's or the other thing I used to do before my old studio, because there was a TV there. We don't really watch TV here, but the TV was always on upstairs because we had clients over and we had another studio upstairs. I'd go up and just walk around and listen to TV for 1 or 2 minutes. That would always kind of reset my ears. But I think it's really, really important to get up. Don't work more than an hour without getting up and walking away from things for a minute. Because like I said, it's not just that your ears are tired. It's that your brain is getting tuned into this thing in not a good way.
So first a quick comment and then some other questions. Simon mentions, I tried the pre-delay trick that you showed us last week and it's amazing.
Oh, cool, man. Awesome. I'm glad you did that. Yeah, I was actually, it's kind of funny that these are tricks that I do all the time, and then I'll get on a live stream or video and I'll do something. It's yeah. And then I realize I actually haven't experimented with that so much. So I did that. I did a mix for this new artist named Ja, and hey Kit, he's Ja Phoenix, or it's I Love Ja on Instagram.
I'll see if I can find him.
I just did a mix for him, and there was this cool breakdown section. It was the one that I had Terrell Sass play drums on, and I did the pre-delay thing where I actually put an actual delay before the reverb, and it's not. If I turned it off and on, you'd be like, wow, you could really hear a difference. But when you hear the mix, it just sounds like that reverb is bouncing. And I hadn't actually done that in a while, not like that. But doing the live stream got me thinking about man, I got to do that some more. So thanks, Simon.
Tips for getting crisp, clear vocals without hurting the ears?
Okay, hold on. Oh, and actually, okay, I see Alex. Alex, I'm going to get to your question here in a second because it's actually on my list here. And okay, and I see Crystal. I see another one here from DJ Spin about a secret to a loud mix. We'll get to that in a minute. What was the question again?
Do you have tips for getting crisp, clear vocals without hurting the ears?
Man, I would say it's going to be a combination of cutting and boosting. So there's a plugin, and let me see if I can pull it up here. I don't really have any sessions completely ready here. Let's see what I got. I'm gonna pull up something here. I don't really have permission to use this, so I can't really play. And Harper, don't go over to my screen here in a minute, but I just want to pull up a plugin here. So vocals tend to get really harsh around 3.8K, 4K, 4.1K. And it's not usually like a frequency that is always there. It's in and out. It's in and out. It's in and out. And it's the thing that makes vocals sound harsh. Sometimes it's a little lower, sometimes a little higher. And what I do is I put a Pro Q3 by FabFilter on there. There's other ways you can do it, but this is the one that I've found that does the best job. I actually like using this more than I actually like using that Soothe plugin, because Soothe to me just kind of gets too much stuff. But let me just go ahead and pull something up here. And this is something that's easy for me to grab right now. I just don't know if I'm allowed to play the song because it's not been released. Oh, hold on. Let me do something here real quick. So I'm going to show you two things. So step one, to get your vocals crisp, because you got to turn up some high end, you're going to have to like get rid of the bad stuff. So as you can see here, I got my Pro Q3. I'm in natural phase, and I'll, get a frequency here, put a band here, and do narrow bandwidth, and I'm going to sweep it around, right? And usually it ends up being, somewhere around, 4K or something like that. And with this plugin, what you do is take it back down to 0, right-click on it, make it dynamic, and then this little band here, pull this down like 5 dB or something like that. This is just a general thing, and what'll happen is every time that harshness hits, it's going to duck that down. At the same time, you could use, and that's just kind of a general thing I do on a lot of vocals. There's another plugin, and this one is a little expensive, but it's the best one for it. It's this one right here, the Manly Massive Passive. And this thing, it's kind of funny. It's like the super expensive, pretty expensive plugin. People use it for mastering. I actually just use it for vocals. Occasionally use it on a mix. But here's the trick with this thing. You go to the high frequency or do boost, put it in the bell shape right here, and make it slightly narrow. And then you can crank up like 12K, 16K, and get it really, you get this nice sheen on top, and it'll make them sound really bright without being harsh. But you can do this with a lot of EQs. Coming back to Pro Q3, I could give you an example there. Another way to accomplish a similar thing is to do a shelving EQ. And although I wouldn't normally do it with, I would actually do it with this plugin. But you can do it with anyone. Let's go to, I'm going to use my filter bank. And on a vocal, usually I have something like, I'm going to do a high-pass filter. But if you want it to be crisp, you get a shelf with a kind of a narrow or a very steep attack on it and crank it up and get up, 10K or above. Sometimes it's up in 12K. And that will, and I literally will have it up like this sometimes. Because all the harshness is actually around here, right? And you can get some good stuff around 6K and all that. But you want to watch out for this 3K, 4K area. And that's kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, mixing a low vocal to make it stand out in the mix. You're actually going to be boosting the very frequencies I'm talking about ducking out on a regular vocal. So that's one of the main things I'll do. It's a lot of it's just more about this super high end up there and getting it really high, but not getting down into this area. This area here you got to watch out for. It's important to the vocal, but you only need a little bit of it. I hope that answers your question.
So we're going to jump to the secret to a loud mix and then swing back around to another question.
The secret to a loud mix. Well, first off, as I said earlier, mix at a low volume. Like, people think, oh, it's, I want this to just be this crazy loud mix and all that, and they're mixing loud, and everything sounds good when it's loud, right? You should be mixing at a volume that you can talk above, right? But to get your mix to pump without destroying it, and I can't really play the song right now, but I can give you an example. Let's go back over to the DAW here. So here's what I've got going on this mix. You can see I've got all my instruments over here. They're going into their own master right here. This is like the instrument master. And then all the vocals, which are over here, they go into their own master here, right? Boom. This one. And then these two masters go into the main master and get combined. Now, what you'll notice is, oh man, I got to move the plugins down. I got this other screen here. So, and I'm going to get to my point here in a second. Let me pull down some of these plugins here. Okay. Boom. All right, let me switch this back. Now, what's going on is every individual track, I spend a good deal of time on each individual track. For instance, the drums have, parallel compression. I've got a teeny bit of compression on one of the drum subgroups. On the second one, I'm smashing it like crazy. The bass has a bit of compression going on. The vocals are compressed so that even without any of the master compression, everything's kind of getting leveled out, but it's not destroying anything. When all the instruments go into their master fader, there's another compressor on there. Now, when it's playing, this meter here, I'm only maybe compressing it 2 or 3 dB at the most, like when the snare hits. Same with the vocals. When the vocals are going, same plug-in on there, same compressor, they're barely hitting it. Then they combine, and they go to this master, and I'm using this plug-in here, the Shadow Hills, and I'm using the optical and the discrete compressors in here. But once again, when these are playing, the meters here are maybe going to 1.5, right? And then finally on the master fader, I've got a limiter. And I'm only hitting that like maybe 1.5 dB to 2 dB. But my mixes are pretty darn loud. The point being is that I think the mistake a lot of people make is that they work on their mix and then they just throw a limiter on the whole thing. And, like, well, let me just hit this really hard to make it loud. But then this is kind of like everything's just like everything's hitting that limiter and just, doing weird stuff, and it's going to distort. And I'm doing all those things, but I'm doing them in stages. I'm doing it on each individual track to make sure I'm getting the maximum out of each track. It takes longer to mix. It's a little bit more attention to detail. But it's not that I'm doing anything crazy. Like if you actually look at, except for the vocals, which I'm hitting compressors pretty hard because vocals are like one of the most dynamic things you're ever going to have in a song. But it allows me to not smash the master fader or my instrument or vocal masters because I'm doing a ton of work in here. Like, for instance, I got a little guitar part here. Yes, let me see. I'll play one little section here. So let me... Yeah, I should have... I can't play the whole song. They might get mad at me. So... why am I not hearing this? Oh, you know what? Oh, wait. Oh, I can't do it with the song. It's the wrong sample rate. I was going to show you... Well, yeah, I'll show you the plugin. Just can't hear it because I forgot I was doing this. Like, look. Boom. So that's a little picking guitar part. I'm hitting maybe 3 dB once in a while, maybe 4. It's just this little picking guitar part. And I'm doing that across the board on a lot of different instruments, So that's the answer. Don't rely on trying to get all your volume out of just something you're going to do on the master fader. There's a lot of other things that need to happen before you get to the master fader in order for you to get a loud mix. It's not just about the master fader. Actually, I got to switch this monitor back here. There was another...
So, yeah, what is the biggest mistake you made at the beginning of your career as a mixing engineer?
Well, that's kind of a tough question to answer for me because when I started mixing, we were still on analog. You know, we're doing, things are really different now. And we had to do things like we couldn't actually, some of the mistakes you could make today were kind of impossible to make back then because we didn't have that much gear and things were very simple. We didn't have all the automation. So you had to really focus on getting the most out of the equipment that you had and only working with a few channels. But today, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes has a lot to do with gain structure. So, and actually, let's go back to the dog end. I can use this as an example. And actually, hold on. Let me save another copy here so I don't mess this thing up. For live stream. Boom. Okay. So when I get a mix in from a client or a mix, even if I'm mixing my own stuff, the first thing I do is I grab everything, all the faders, and I bring them down. Because, you know, when you're tracking, you tend to keep pushing the faders up and the faders up. Or if you're getting a mix from a client, a lot of times it comes in and you drop it in your DAW and all your faders are up, you know, kind of up, you know, at unity gain or whatever. The main mistake I think people make is starting to overdrive all their, you know, auxiliary returns and their master and all that. They're also overdriving their plugins. If you look, sometimes people like are clipping their plugins and stuff like that. To me, like I said, that's not something we dealt with back in the day because we're going to tape and tape had tape compression and, you know, you're on a board and you can see the red light flashing and it's very obvious. Whereas in a digital situation, you might be getting flashing. You might be clipping the input or the output of this plugin. And unless you're like really paying attention, it's just this little teeny red light right there. You might miss that. And that's going to start affecting the tone, the sound, the dynamic range, a million other things. But it's easy to miss. And I get this from clients all the time where, you know, I give private mixing lessons to people and they'll bring in their DAW and they'll want me to show them something. And first off, everybody always has way too many plugins on there, but they're almost always clipping things. That's the first mistake people make that when they're beginning. The second mistake people make is using too many plugins. Try to mix a song. Just try it and limit what you use. Try not to use every plugin. Just say, on this mix, I'm only going to use this one kind of plugin, like maybe the built-in Pro Tools plugin, or, oh, let's just go to the front screen. Maybe just mix using only one brand of EQ and only one type of compressor and just see how far you can get it. Just don't, you know, I think like plugins are kind of like Band-Aids. People think like, oh, I want it to sound this, I want it to sound cool. I read somewhere if you put a saturator plugin on something, like don't do that. Just concentrate on the basics. Just get a little EQ, a little compression, maybe a little bit of delay or reverb, and try to mix it doing the least amount of things as possible. Don't rely on plugins, you know? It's like, actually, let's go back to Pro Tools real quick. I want to show something here. So you see right here in Pro Tools, typically on a Pro Tools mixer, you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 10 insert points on each channel. I actually keep the second group of insert points here hidden because my thing is like, I try to avoid going that far with it. I typically never go beyond 5 plugins, and it's actually kind of rare. On this one, I had some issues with this bass, so I had to do a little extra work. And on vocals, you know, because of my unique vocal chain, sometimes I typically go up to 5, but they're not actually well, this one because I was doing something kind of crazy. But I'm not using that many plugins. I rarely go beyond 5 plugins. Typically, each one of my tracks only has 2 to 3 plugins max. Sometimes, like on this song here, I've got several tracks that only have 1 plugin on it, and like some of these, I'm like look at that, I'm hardly doing anything. Like, look at that. So it's like, don't fool yourself into thinking like, oh, I'm a mixer, I gotta start changing everything. Try just mixing with minimal plugins. So those are the 2 things that I think are the biggest mistakes people make when they're beginning mixing. So, Ashboon Kid, you're asking the do's and don'ts while mixing a live band. I'm not really an expert on mixing live sound. I did it for a short amount of time in the 80s, and I hated it because the problem with mixing live sound is you can't go, hey, wait. Let's stop. I got to adjust something. There's no like, hey, can we do another take? That always just seemed like craziness. It always seemed like damage control. So that's why I quit. From my opinion, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I wish I could answer. I mean, I would think, I don't know what would be I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not an expert. If Casey were on here right now, but Casey's one of our regular participants, but Casey happens to be on a ship in the ocean right now, and Casey mixes all the time, so Casey might have something to say, but I wish I could tell you something. It's not really my forte. There was another question here that I didn't get to.
I think you're good right now.
And by the way, everybody, I'm going to be releasing a new YouTube video that's about this major studio upgrade I just got done doing, and I'll be releasing it towards the end of this stream, and I'll let y'all know. I'm going to be showing some clips from it. Actually, let me show a little clip right now while we're here. This is a little bit from my video that's coming out today. Here we go. Are we on the DAW? Mm-hmm. Okay. Here we go. Are we getting any audio?
I don't know.
Oh. I don't think I'm getting this audio here for some damn reason. Oh, hold on, guys. I'm going to have to swing back to this. Sorry. You know why? Because I still have this session open up in the wrong sample rate. And I always forget. And yeah, hold on. Crystal, say something interesting. Oh, actually, Crystal, you wanted to show something, didn't you?
Well, you warned me that I was going to have to do this. So I thought I would tell people a little bit. You know, one of the things that I've been researching a lot, and we had a whole live stream about this and have mentioned it a couple of small times, but it's about how do you get paid on a successful song, you know, because there's so many different types of royalties and different avenues that money comes in. And I just wanted to highlight one that was a big surprise to me, and that is that you might have compulsory royalties owed to you just for being a non-featured musician on a song, or in some limited instances, even a producer or an engineer. Now, this doesn't apply to a lot of different songs. You know, for this to be relevant, generally speaking, you've got to have something that's got some success behind it. But the American Federation of Musicians is a musicians union, which, by the way, you don't even have to be a member of for them to help you. But it's useful to be a member. I recommend it. They can remit 5% of royalty. No, Sound Exchange remits royalties to the American Federation of Musicians, and those are specifically to remit to non-featured performers on successful songs. So how do you collect? You have to be able to prove that you are that guitar player or that bass player or that piano player. And so one thing you can do is there's such a thing as session log sheets. These are commonly used on union recording things. But you can also, let's see, can we see? Yeah, we can kind of see. You can also just have something like this.
Hold it up closer to the camera.
I just made this up. And it's just a sound recording register. You got to have on there like your date, your featured artists, the producers, all that kind of information, because some of that may become relevant if the song becomes a hit. And then you want to, down here, have the song title or track title, and then all the non-featured performers and what they played. And then people sign it to say, yep, this is right. And then this is a record that you can have on hand. And if a song ends up getting licensed for something or whatever and has some significant success, you can use something like this to prove that you were the non-featured performer on that song. And so then you might be able to collect these royalties that were collected, these compulsory royalties. So that's just a little tiny tidbit that was a surprise to me that I thought was useful for people to know. So if you are a session musician and you go and you regularly get hired on to play on other people's songs, make yourself one of these, or maybe you can probably find some online and bring it with you to have proof that you played on the song.
Yeah, we've been going back and tracking down things that I played on so I can get paid. And if I can find a CD that has my credits on it, I can use that as proof. But there's a Nappy Roots album I played on, and they didn't credit a bunch of people. I played on a bunch of songs on that album, so there's no credits there, so I can't prove what I played on, even though I know what I played on. There was another guitar player there, this guy from Chattanooga, and he had these things, and I remember like, wow, that guy's really thorough. And it, now he probably submitted and got paid. I didn't have one, so I didn't. It was like kind of a drag because they didn't credit a bunch of. I had a friend, actually, the guy that was singing on that song that I played earlier. He sang on the album and didn't get credited. So there you go. I'm gonna try. Hey, Kit, Simon is asking if we can put that up on the Discord channel.
That's a good idea.
Put the PDF. Yeah, she'll put it up there later. That's a good one. Now I'm gonna see if this video will play. This is a little clip from my YouTube video. Let's see if I'm getting audio now. And then I got this text. Oh man, I was just thinking about how much I missed having a mixer. Was it fate? Providence? Either way, it was too good a deal to pass up. The desk alone was worth way more than the price. But driving down to pick it up, I started freaking out. Do you really need this? Yes. Isn't this just nostalgia for the way you used to record? No. This is new gear rationalization. You need it. You want it. Is it really worth redoing what you spent a year doing? And even as I was loading up the mixer in the desk, I'm thinking to myself, is this going to be a major waste of time and regret, or is it going to be so amazing that I'm jumping for joy the first time? Anyway, so that's just a little clip from the video I'm putting out later today. I'll play some more clips later. I'll be releasing that probably in about 20 minutes, and we'll put the link up for that. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, that was actually one of my boys' ideas to do the whole crazy driving in the van thing. Were there any other questions here?
I think we're good for a minute.
See any right now. Okay, let me go. What else do I have? Okay, we had the biggest mistake for young mixers. Oh, next question. Why is it important to check my mixes in mono? And that's a great question right there. And it's funny because I didn't do that for years. Besides just panning my returns, actually some of the mixers I was working on, I actually couldn't do it. The reason you want to do that, there's a couple reasons. One is to see if there's any kind of phase cancellation. And phase cancellation is where when you've got two sounds from the same instrument, and not always from the same instrument. If they're low instruments like a bass and a kick drum, a bass guitar and a kick drum or something like that, when you got these huge waveforms, if they're not lined up where the peaks and valleys are in the same place, they can remove frequencies. But what I've found is like certain keyboard sounds, like synthesizers and plugins and all that, sometimes they want to make them sound wide. They'll literally throw one side out of phase and it'll seem kind of wide, but when you put it in mono, the things start to disappear. And that can happen also with like live drums, for instance. If your phase isn't really good on your overheads or whatever, and you put that mix into mono, your drums are going to sound weaker. That's one of the main reasons why you want to do a mono check. But it's also kind of like, even if there's no phase issues, it's important to check because you can, depending on what your pan law is. So pan law is when you pan something to the left or right, it changes actually the volume of that sound in addition to panning it. I can never remember if it goes, I think it goes loud. If you have a higher, I can't remember. When you pan to the side more, it kind of actually turns it up more, something weird like that. But it literally will change. It kind of changes your perception of how wide things are. And different mixers have different pan laws. And I'll get to the question here in a minute. Well, I don't really have it in Ableton here. But if you're in Pro Tools, there's actually a setting. If you go to your session setup, it's like negative, there's 2.5 and 3 and whatever. So if you do mono check, depending on how things are panned and what your pan law is, it can completely change the mix. So it's something you got to check all the time. Very, very important thing to do. I thought I saw,
a frequency you naturally reach to cut in overheads.
Good one. That's from Lex, hit reset. Am I doing that right? So overheads, it kind of depends on the room. I've got 2 drum rooms here. I've got a smaller one back here, and then I've got one upstairs. It's actually my living room. I got massive ceilings, not pretty big ceilings. If I'm in a smaller room or I've done drums from the smaller room, they're done in a smaller room, there always seems to be like this boxy kind of 600K, 600 hertz area that I need to pull out. There's this boxy sound, right? I'm also doing a high pass filter on the overheads, not a ton, but just trying to get out some of the boom. I don't really want that in there all the time. But one of the main things I do on overheads is I'm cutting around 4K. I was talking about this earlier where that's where there's this harshness on vocals. And cymbals can get harsh around there too. So a lot of times I'm kind of sweeping around and finding like where there's a bit of harshness in it, and I'll duck that down like a couple dB, nothing crazy. On overheads, I typically, and it's kind of a similar thing I'll do with vocals, I'll do a shelving EQ with kind of a steep rise on it, and I'll boost some nice, 12K type stuff up there a little bit. I don't really mess. I think sometimes people, when they're working with overheads, they'll solo up the overheads and it'll sound kind of mid-rangey, so they start pulling out the mid-range. And there, in some kinds of music, that's kind of cool. But to me, like, it's not just about the cymbals. I also want to get the snare drum in there too. So there's a lot of good mid-range in the snare drum. So got to be careful about pulling out the mid-range. But to answer your questions, typically there's somewhere between 600 hertz or 500 hertz up to like 700 hertz. I'm ducking out a little bit on the overheads, and then I'm ducking a little around 4K for the overheads. Let's see.
Mix Club mentions for them 6.3. They think they have a problem there. Hurts them on anything, really.
For overheads, are you saying Mix Club? And there's also this thing about individual people and their hearing. And I'm just really sensitive in the 4K region. And so that might be something that I maybe duck down more just because it bothers me. Also can be your monitors. You got, actually I had a private lesson. I do private mixing lessons, and I had this client come in and he brought his rig in, and so I was like, I work on his DAW, and I'm showing how to do stuff with his songs on his DAW, right? He was in Logic. But I was asking him, like, hey, what kind of monitors are you using? And he's got like some KRKs, but he's only got one set of monitors. And it's like, man, you need two different set of monitors. That's another thing when you're mixing. You need to have two different sets that are very different. I've got here, and both my studios, I've got like Yamaha NS10Ms here, and then I got these Haflers. You can't buy them anymore, but they're like big, kind of hi-fi sounding, like nice tweeter and a big subwoofer and all that. And then the Yamahas are pretty mid-rangey, and they're not super, hi-fi or anything. But I do that intentionally because I don't want to fool myself. It's like you can start fooling yourself by only mixing on one set of speakers. And I'm going back and forth all the time. And when I first started doing that, it was messing with my head. I would like freak out. I'm like, oh my God, the Yamaha, it sounds so mid-rangey here. And this sound, but then on the Haflers, it's kind of scooped and boomy sounding. But then after a while you realize, well, it's that way because the speaker's that way. So I think the thing to do is always make sure that you've got two sets of monitors, preferably some smaller monitors with no subwoofer on it. And then get some nice big monitors with a subwoofer on it. And just do two things that are completely different. And if you really want to go for it, add a third pair of speakers that is like a boom box or like a home stereo. And use that as well. When I used to do that, I actually kept the stereo behind me. So I'd have my Yamahas and the Haflers up here. I haven't done it in a long time, but I would literally have a big boom box. It was it was a home stereo, but it's like a big boom box. And it sat behind me. And I would mix. This sounds crazy, but I would mix sometimes going through that with the music behind me. Because it's a matter of just changing your perception. You can really get fooled into thinking things sound a certain way by listening on one set of speakers and always sitting in the same spot. The other thing is like get up and walk around the room. Like listen and get used to listening into one corner. Like there's always going to be some corner in your control room where you're mixing where the bass is going to be boomy. It's going to sound crazy. So what you do is put on a record that sounds good and has great low end and find a corner where it sounds the worst. And just every day go so you can memorize the sound. Like, okay, this is a great record and it sounds terrible in this corner, but it sounds terrible in this way. Then when you're working on one of your mixes, go back and stand in that corner and go like, oh, is it more boomy and muffly or is it less boomy? And it seems like a weird way to work where you're making decisions on your overall mix by, standing in the worst place in the room and trying to figure out if it's got more boom or less boom. But it's a great way. It's a great way to figure things out. And I've done that for years. Let's see. Somebody, Elijah, you're saying, is this guy a music creator? Are you asking me that? Yes, as a matter of fact, I've got a song that's kind of out. I'm kind of about to re-release it. I'm working on my own album right now. The last 2 live streams I did, I was actually working on one of my songs where I was like showing off reverbs and pre-delays and also my new mixer. So a lot of times I'm actually featuring my own music on the live stream. I'm not doing today because today's just about me yapping and talking. Let's see. Oh, hey, hello from Argentina. Nice to see you here. If anybody's got any questions about mixing or production, that's what I'm here for. I think we already went through all my Reddit questions here. Unless, Harper, you got any questions? I'm always asking you, Harper, ask me a question, man.
Let's see.
Come on, man, you're on the spot.
Alrighty. It's a little broad, but what do you think is the most...
Oh, come on. We need to see your hair. Come on.
It's a little broad, but what do you think is the most important part of a mix?
What is the most important part of a mix? I'm going to answer it in 2 ways. I'd say the most important thing in the mix is, are you portraying the emotion that the artist is trying to portray? It doesn't have anything to do with technical stuff. And when I was younger, I'd got this wrong a lot because there's this kind of a vibe, like whether they're kind of intended genre or what they're trying to say with the song. And I just like things that really be kind of like super like huge sounding and just impressive and, whatever. And I would like kind of hype it up too much and kind of not be thinking about the artist and what their image is and all that. And I would sometimes kind of over mix and, oh, hey, hello to Nigeria. Nice seeing you here. I would miss the point. And I think that the most important thing is in the mix is to understand if you're mixing somebody else, what does the artist want? What is their sound? Like, that's the most important thing. And I was mixing something this week, and it's this artist Jaw that I was talking about earlier. He calls it shoegaze. There's a lot of different types of shoegaze, but in that kind of music, the vocals need to be kind of low compared to like country or pop. So, I probably would have gone in there had I not really thought about that and mixed it myself. It would have been like way louder. The second thing that's important in a mix is, what are you going to compel the listener to do? And I think the most important thing to make sure your listener does is tap their foot and sing along. Very, very simple. I think you can get caught up in all these different sounds, but at the end of the day, for the most part, you got to make sure the beat, whether it's drums or if you're working in bluegrass, you want to hear the mandolin hitting on the backbeat and the bass pumping on the downbeat. And you want to be able to make sure that the vocals are doing their thing. Like, you want to make sure that the beat and the melody, and sometimes that melody is a musical thing, right? Those need to be heard. To me, those are the most important parts of the mix. Then the third thing I'd say that's the most important thing in the mix is thinking about breaking your mix into 3 elements: your low end, your mid-range, and the high end. And I know this sounds really generalized, but what's going to define the mix a lot are those 3 elements. Like if you think about lo-fi, it's not going to have a bunch of like super high end in it. It's going to be a little darker. It might have a bit more low end. If you're working on, rap or some pop stuff, you got to really make sure that low end is booming. Some types of rock, they don't really want much low end. So you got to be thinking also about like this major balance in the mix. And not all songs need to be mixed the same way. So even though there's like a lot of instruments and little parts, I'm always thinking in the back of my head, I'm just seeing like, low end, mid-range, and high end. And I'm thinking about, where is that? There's a question here from Alex on Instagram. Apparently, it was meant to help when gain staging from one plugin to another on the channel. Oh, and maybe I'm coming in partway through a conversation here.
Check the comment right above. He has 2 comments together.
Oh. I only see one. I tell you what, man, Instagram acts weird. I'm only seeing one comment here.
Okay,
You're going to have to read it to me.
I read about a way of mixing where you set all channels to average -18 dB as a starting point in your DAW. Is there any sense behind that? Apparently, it was meant to help when gain staging from one plugin to another on the channels.
Yeah, that's a good one, Alex. Because I was talking about this earlier. You might not have heard it because somebody was asking, like, what are the main mistakes people make? And what I always do when I start mixing is I just bring all the faders down, even on one of my own songs, because I'm normally trying to watch it when I'm tracking and I'm working on a song. But a lot of times, you're down here having a good time and maybe you've had a couple drinks or whatever, and you're turning stuff up. But I always bring all the faders down. But the other thing, that may not even affect the plugins though. To me, that's more about like going to your different auxiliary returns, subgroups, masters, and all that. What happens often is when people send me mixes, their files, the files they're sending me are really loud, and you can overdrive the plugin no matter where your fader's at, because the plugins, they're going to get a level that has nothing to do with the fader. So sometimes if I am working on a mix and they've sent me some vocals or guitars or whatever it is, a lot of times it's drums, it's redlining right off the bat. Or it's just right there that if I put an EQ plugin on it and I barely nudge a frequency up, boom, it's redlining. So I can either turn down the input of the plugin, or a lot of times I'll just go and clip gain that sucker down 4 dB, something to give me some headroom. But you're asking is there any sense behind it? Yes, there is. Always start your mix with the faders down, because it's easy to turn up. It's easy to turn up. You can always go and, even put like a trim plug-in on the front end, like the first thing on your master fader or whatever. It's easy to turn up, but once you get heavy into a mix and just there's so many things that are just right on that edge, it's hard to kind of back off from that. Let's see. See if there's
we're caught up here.
Any other? I'm going to play another clip from I'm going to play another clip from my video. I'm releasing a YouTube video here in a few minutes. I'm going to play another clip from this video. Let's go to... Okay, here we go. So here's a little part of the video that's coming out today. At this point, it was just a matter of getting everybody over here at the same time to help me. I left the board set up in the other room where I dabbled with it a little bit, and I had the desk set up there as well, but it was taking a lot of time, weeks. I needed to get this done. I had rehearsals coming up with the Tokyo Teens because we had a gig coming up. I had sessions I needed to do. I just needed to get this done, so I just decided I'm just going to start it and do it myself till it's done. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Just do it! Until it's done. First, take off the ribbon connectors. Remove the fader from each channel and set aside. Repeat. 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 Next, remove the circuit board for each channel. Disconnect from the input circuit board and set aside. Repeat. 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 I started to add up the number of different components in the mixer, but that alone was taking some time. Let's just say, there's a lot of them. And there's a lot of dust and other things in there as well. Next, I needed to clean each one of the 631 potentiometers by spraying cleaner into the little hole on the housing and twisting the shaft back and forth several times. The problem I was having is that the cleaner I chose sprays out of that nozzle at a high pressure, and even if I have it positioned right over the hole, some of it would ricochet back into my face, get on the other components, and smell up the room with all its nasty chemicals. Plus, I'd accidentally ordered a small can and I ran out pretty quickly. So that's another clip from the video I've got coming out here in a few minutes. We got rated over on Twitch because we're streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram at the same time from Soundbites. Thanks for the raid. Appreciate it. Welcome, raiders. I was just showing a clip from a YouTube video that I'm probably going to release here literally in minutes, and I'll show another clip later. There was a question from Mix Club. on rack toms, have you ever automated a high cut to get the cymbals out of the way, but still get some decay? Again, sorry. Oh, it's all right. So on rack toms, actually with the rack, I don't. Well, I do automate the toms. I will say that. And actually, on a lot of live drum things, I do that thing where I go through and I on the tom tracks, I literally just cut out everything except the tom hits, and I'll put a fade on the tom. Sometimes that's a bit of a challenge because, he does a tom fill and he hits that last tom and boom, he's right into a crash. But you know what? I found that I can do a fade and it'll be really short. And if you listen to the tom by itself, it's like, oh, it's just cutting off. But I found that between the overheads and the room mics, I never noticed that. So I typically, get that fade out before the ride cymbal comes in. I did a mix this last week where I didn't actually cut the toms. I actually just had them down low and then I automated them up because I liked having a little bit of the ring in there. It was just adding this kind of extra dimension to it. But I do automate the toms. I absolutely do. And the reason I do that is, like, if I'm in a mix and I'm EQing the toms, I'll typically loop a section and I'm going to get a nice warm thud out of it. I'm typically going to pull some muddy mids, low mids in there. And then I'm going to boost, a little high end, like 3, 4K, like that little tick sound, right? But what happens sometimes is because it's a live drummer, on one fill, he smacked that tom and he hit it right in the sweet spot. Next fill, he doesn't hit it quite as loud and he's not in the sweet spot, so it's a little muddy sounding. I'll literally, I know this is over the top a little bit, but I'll go and I'll automate the EQ of a tom because I want them all to have this kind of sound. Now, like if it's jazz or something like that, maybe they did that on purpose. They want the tom to be quieter there. But a lot of times it's just that the drummer didn't really smack it as hard. So I'll go through and I'll automate tom EQs all the time. And I'll even automate the panning on the toms. So let's say this guy's got 3 toms and he's doing a fill, and I'm just going to say this now. Even panning toms in a mix is kind of silly because if you're in a room with a drummer, you're not going to hear the toms like, oh, that one's over here. So don't worry about it. This is what I do. I'm panning my toms. I got my high tom kind of over the left. The middle tom might be slightly to the right, so I'm getting some movement. And then the floor tom's going to be all the way over here. So there's, some kind of movement going across. But if the drummer on the next fill doesn't use the high tom, he's only using the middle tom and the bottom tom, he's going, pup, pup. I want them to pan. I'll automate the panning of the middle tom over this way. So on that fill, it goes bump, bump. And obviously that's not something that would ever happen live unless you're standing. I mean, even the drummer's not going to hear the toms that way. I do it all the time. I've never had a client go, hey, you changed the panning on the toms. Nobody notices. All they know is that it sounds cool. So I'll automate panning and I automate the EQ. But the automation is not really about the cymbals so much. It's usually about the sound of the toms when they're being hit. Mix Club, that's what I do. I admit I mix loud when working on toms. Yes, exactly. So I was saying that I mix, hey Roxy Mo, what's up? I'm mixing at a low volume, but when it comes to kick drums and basses, you got to turn them up once in a while to kind of make sure it's impacting. You can't always mix at a low volume. So I'll turn it up for a minute or two, and then I'm turning them back down. So that's all good, man. Let's see. We're just over an hour here, so I'm going to have to go soon because actually I got a mix today. I got a bunch of mixing to do.
Thanks for the follow, MCR Music.
Yes, thanks a lot. I really appreciate everybody watching. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me go, you can stay here. So I'm releasing this video. I'm going to go over and now make it public so that we can get the link. And it's all about this. It's all about the upgrade I just did in the studio that you'll see the video. It's a long video, but there's a lot of good stuff in it. Let me come down here. Let me make it go public, save. Hold on. Wait, public. Oh, come on. I'm having problems here. I'm working on a screen I don't normally work on. Oh, done. Boom. Okay, we are now public. So Kit, if you go to YouTube.
Working on it.
And just go to my latest video and pop it in there. And I'm going to go ahead and play another clip from the video that I just literally made public seconds ago. Let me get this one ready.
I don't have it yet, but I should have it
Okay, so
shortly.
here's another little clip from the video that just came out. Check this out. And boom, we started taking everything apart. My original plan had been to use my existing mixer stand because the stands for the new desk were huge. They're kind of tall and I thought would take up too much space. But at the end of the day, after putting the desk and the mixer and some gear on top of it, it just didn't look strong enough. So first thing the next morning, I got up and cut those wooden stands down, replaced the old stand, and got back to work setting up the gear. But at some point, I forgot to keep filming, and I didn't realize that till about 3 o'clock in the morning when I tried to film an update. I'm at the end of day. I'm at the end of day 2, and I got the end of day 2. End of day 2. We changed the base and moved everything, and I'm gonna whatever. I'll do this tomorrow. The armrest on the desk had a huge rip in it. Plus, I felt like it was about 3 inches too high, so I decided, let me take it down and reupholster it. Now, I've never actually reupholstered anything before, but like I said, there's a first time for everything. I wasn't able to mount it by myself, so I put it off till I could get some help. Well, it's the end of day 3. Well, so that's another clip from the video, the YouTube video I just put out, and Kit is putting up links to that. So if y'all could go check it out, I'd really appreciate it. There'll also be a link up in the Discord channel. So yeah, please everybody go check out my YouTube video so I can get some views because I'm trying to build up my following on YouTube. But like I said, the video is all about this major studio upgrade, you know, getting the new mixer in, cleaning it, and a bunch of other wacky stuff. Yes, I was definitely... I was tired in that. Yeah, it was a long, difficult experience upgrading the studio and trying to get it done all between sessions and stuff like that. It was, but it's done now. I mean, actually, I got a little more tweaking to do. There's a little bit more work on the patch bay. And I just earlier today, when we were getting ready for the session, I was trying to send Pro Tools over to the streaming computer, and there's these 2 cables down here that I thought were the send to the PC, and it wasn't doing it. I don't know what these cables are. They're just sitting here. That's kind of a like a mystery. So we're going to figure that out later today. Okay, Soundbite saying he's going to update his studio. Oh yeah. I wish Hey, I'm going to borrow Crystal's camera because you're talking about like sidecars and stuff. Sound bites. Check this out. I'm just going to let's go to Crystal's camera.
Oh. Yes, there we go.
So yeah, right here, having these on either side are just amazing. I didn't have that before because it allows me to put my lunch boxes. The lighting's not good in here, but you see got my lunch boxes here. And also just a place to put notes and stuff like that. And, you know, there's my mixer and all that stuff. And then another one over here. And then having the gear, like this rack right here, is really great. And then there's another rack over here. I'm going to put little lights there at some point. But I'll tell you what, and I'll back up a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Yeah, I'm going to just sound bites. I'm going to just pan it around the room so you can see the control room. There's Harper with his new hairdo. There's Kit. Oh, I'm going to strip over cable. And then... boom.
Boom.
Boom. So, yeah, but if you watch the video I just put out, it's got... a lot of detail about what went into all this. Roxima, they lead to a... Wait, what now? They lead to a secret door. Don't talk about the secret door, man.
That's the two cables, the two mystery cables.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Shh. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Oh, yeah. It's crazy how many monitors I have. I've got 4 monitors sitting right here in front of me. And I'm usually only using 2, but when I'm in these live streams, I swear I could use a 5th. I mean, Harper's got... So we got 5 monitors running right here now, but I could use another one for myself. Especially, I haven't done this in a while. Sometimes I live stream recording sessions. I would do these like 7-8 hour long recording sessions. I haven't done it in like a year, but I was talking to Kit earlier. I think I'm going to eventually get back to actually doing recording sessions on a live stream. I've been working a lot and other stuff, so I've not been able to do it. So I think I'm going to, if there's no more questions...
there was one more.
Was there?
What is the reference scale for line level?
Somebody's trying to trip me up there. I'm not even sure if I understand that. What is the reference? What is it?
It says, please, what is the reference scale for line level? Is this... It may be slightly... No,
I'm thinking this is...
no, this is somebody from Nigeria, so there may be a slight difficulty with translation.
Yeah, I thought it was one of my friends who, like, because I have engineer friends that actually really know all this kind of stuff, and they're really smart, and they're trying to trip me up because they know I don't actually know that stuff. I don't really have an answer for that question. I'm not sure I even understand it. Well, please, what is the reference scale for line level? You know, I see people talking about all this technical stuff where your mix should be and all that. I mean, to be honest with you, unless I'm working on a movie, you know, and there's like definitely requirements for that and all that, and I'll make sure the level's not too. But for the rest of the stuff, man, I literally make it as loud as I can without, going into the red or making it sound bad. As far as line level, it's pretty simple, man. I try to keep things from distorting unless I want them to distort. I try to keep from clipping, going in or on my channels and stuff like that. So I wish I could answer that question. I don't really understand it.
MCR Music suggests +4 dBm over on Twitch.
Yeah, +4 is line level, right? I mean, I'm not sure if he's saying something we're supposed to measure. Yeah, line level is +4, but but it's all relative. Like, it matters if what kind of gear you're plugged into. If you got a +4 output and you're going into something that's -10, you got a problem. But once you got it in there and you're working, to me, it just doesn't really matter. I guess it matters when you're hooking up gear and stuff like that. But, but thanks for the answer, MCR Music. I knew line level is +4, but it's not like unless it has to do with hooking up gear, I don't really know what that matters. Anyway, I'm going to need to end the stream because I've got to mix, and I appreciate all the questions and everybody making comments and participating.
And hey, guys, lately, Billy's been doing pretty much every Wednesday right at 3. It sometimes varies the time a little bit, but he streams pretty much every Wednesday. We simul-stream on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. I will say that Twitch and YouTube tend to have better quality audio than Instagram does. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this, you'd like to check out more, see us again next Wednesday.
And also, Kit, can you one more time paste up the link to the video I just put out? Because I just want to get more views. It's hard to get views on YouTube. Oh, it's your thumbnail. It's your thumbnail. Actually, I'm going to show you my thumbnail before I go because it's been really frustrating for me. You see all this stuff like, oh, you got to have these great thumbnails. And, dude, I'll spend like hours on a thumbnail and then it just doesn't make any difference. So today I decided I would try, well, let me just use a bad thumbnail. So this is the thumbnail for the video I put out today, just like minutes ago. That's my thumbnail. I'm tired of making fancy thumbnails. So anyway, but please go watch the video. And I will be back next Wednesday. And once again, I appreciate everybody watching and being involved. and y'all have a good day. See you later. Take 1, take 2, take 3, take 4, take 5, take whatever.